this moment, so we're going to go straight to questions. So we got Michael over here. Go ahead, Michael. What do you got?
I was going to ask, is there any Kabbalistically or spiritually, is there any connection between physical pain and like one's spiritual state? Is it possible to cure a physical thing through spiritual work?
I hear what you're saying. And you mean specifically spiritual, not just emotional, but
Or emotional, yeah, or emotional.
I think you know the answer to that. But
Emotional, I guess you could, but
yeah. So spiritually fixing things. Um, so yeah, that's a very good question. I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people do. We do, and the question is, oh, I'm mic'd up. Oh man, damn. Maybe I'll take off the mic. Oh, I'll keep it on for my answer. The question is, do we have? Is there a spiritual way to heal physical things? And we have a tradition that the 613 commandments, which breaks into 365 don't do's and 248 do's, and they're connected to the 365 limbs and organs of the body and the 248 connective tissues, like all the connective stuff in your body, 248. And so it is brought down Kabbalistically that you can heal a certain part of your body by focusing on that particular commandment. Meaning it could be someone's doing something they're not supposed to be doing, eating something they're not supposed to be eating, and that could heal the body. There's also,
do we know which ones correspond to which ones? Or no?
I think there are some lists. Maybe Google it on your phone after your question. See if you find something. Let us know if you can find a list online. But there's also praying in general for healing. There's been a lot of prayers for healing where miracles happened. And prayer has a way of doing things. I know one thing, it's not a physical thing, but I've known several people with federal court cases against them who were Jewish, and they were not observant, and they had been advised to become fully observant, like now, and the cases were dropped. Meaning each one I know about, their case was dropped when they became fully observant. And I got to be like involved in some of those situations, and I was trying to help a guy, it's like federally stuck. Oh, I had a guy come to my house, fall into my arms crying, and saying he'll never have children. He just got back from the biopsy meeting, the meeting with the doctor, and he had testicular cancer, and that they were going to have to remove his testes, and there was not going to be any children. And this guy was like ruined, And I said to him, do me a favor, call the doctor and ask him if he'll give you another biopsy. He calls the doctor, he says, can I have another biopsy? And I asked him to give it a few weeks, like a month. And also, would there be danger of spread in 1 month? So the doctor said, wouldn't be a danger of spread in 1 month. You'll have to pay for the biopsy privately because your insurance isn't going to pay for it because you already got back the malignant, that it was malignant. And so he puts down the phone, and I said to the guy, I said, you are now officially an observant Jew. Because what? I said, yeah, you put on tefillin, you pray 3 times a day, you eat kosher. Are you dating a Gentile? He says, I'm almost engaged to a Gentile. And I'm like, call her right now. I hand him his phone. His phone's on the table. Give him his phone. I said, call her and break it off. He called her and broke it off.
Wow.
Called her and broke it off. I said, is there a Chabad anywhere near your house? Meaning he needs some support, like how he's going to do this. He's like, yeah, there's a Chabad near my house. So I said, go meet the Chabad rabbi near your house. Let's get going. Anyway, you can imagine the end of the story. Today, thank God, he's an observant Chabadnik. He's married with 3 kids. Married a Persian girl. He's like a total Ashkenazi guy. Married a LA Persian girl and has 3 kids, which is amazing. So you can definitely heal things spiritually. I think it gets more difficult when you're already fully observant. So it's like, what do you fix exactly? What do you know? So emotionally, much of physical dis-ease is an emotional dis-ease, a lack of ease emotionally. And if you focus in on that, if you go, you can actually go through, like literally like dive into that body part and let it open up into your pain. You know, you just like dive right into that body part and open it up to the pain that's there. Most people go to someone for this. I'm trained in this. This is somatic healing. And the Possible Use Seminar does a lot of somatic healing. I actually created the whole seminar based on my own digestive issues. That was like, you know, I was at the end, like I couldn't eat anymore. And I healed my digestion and kind of founded the seminar off that. So, cool. Okay, thank you, Michael. Let's hit our next question. Your name?
Surely.
Surely, you're on.
How are we supposed to have a fear relationship with a God who's
Fear?
Fear. You know, whatever. How did you reword it before?
Oh, I thought you said fair. I forget. East Coasters say fear. Like you don't care for someone, you care for him, and you're scared.
What did you think of?
Fear is being afraid of God, which you also have to have.
Right.
You meant fair.
Yeah, something like
A fair relationship.
with someone so powerful, so
In control.
yeah.
Running the show. Yeah, what kind of relationship is that? Like, imagine being in a personal relationship with someone and loving them while they're controlling everything. I'd run for my life. I would run for my life, right? So, please, if anyone's on the comments, those two people on the live feed, if you can send a comment, please. Whether you're back on this mic here, if I unplug, and the other mic worked well when he spoke. So if you can send a yes that you heard both him and me, that's all I need to know, just a yes. And if the answer is no, tell me what's going on. Okay, so really a great legit question, because if it was a human being, you'd never be in a relationship with someone who was overpowering you. And in this particular case, we've got a being that's all powerful. I think it's a little different with God in that he lays off for the most part. You know, he may be all powerful, but he's not overpowering you at any point. Now, you may know too much. It's really, meaning you may know like, oh my gosh, like God means business. I've learned enough Torah to know that I am overpowered. Meaning he is overpowering me because I don't want to suffer the consequences of having gone against him, and which is probably what you mean. Because he is totally hands off. I mean, is God doing anything to you right now? Can you turn your heart to him and say, I love you? Like I'm going into nature with, I have a chavrusa in nature at 2 o'clock today in another 20 minutes. And I'm gonna be sending love up straight from here right to God, like in there. Because he's hands off, it's just beautiful, it's green, it's sunny, it's warm, we have a beautiful day today. And I'm gonna be in love over there. I'm not being overpowered. But once you include the fact that we know that you better keep the Torah or else, and now we gotta love him, it's like, so I imagine that's what you mean. Because is that what you mean? Because he is hands off. I mean, you can. Does the world really look different to you when you walk down the street next to some guy who's an atheist? You're both in a hands off moment. So, yeah. We make that extra move. You know, he just walks down the street. He's walking down the street. The atheist guy walking down the street. We make the extra. We're the ones making an extra move, saying God's walking me down the street. You understand? That's an extra move we're making. And so there's no problem with loving God in the hands-off mode, but loving God when you know that he set out the rules. This is a clear prescription for what we're supposed to be doing. And he didn't offer me a lot of choices in this matter. You know, I'm born Jewish, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I got to get to work, I guess, and, you know, keep the Torah. And so how do I love him? And is it fair, really? So I think from that perspective, Yona, what's up? I think from that perspective, we could say it's not fair. He's going to. From that perspective, we could say it's not fair. And I think the analogy of our parents, you know, our parents, how fair is that? And kids love their parents. Kids are crazy about their parents. Meaning little kids, they just love their parents. Their parents are like, there's not a ton of free will going on over there. And yet the kids love their parents. It's not fair. It's not like kids have any choice in the matter. They were born into the house, you know, but they love their parents. So I would say you could have love even if it's not fair. But the question's pretty clear. I think you're right about that.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, please.
Also with the parents and also we don't deserve to be alive, even might not want in this planet. So giving us a chance to live.
Meaning like we didn't do anything to deserve this.
And I'm supposed to be alive. The chances of us being alive right now is 0. So it's a miracle we're even alive right now. So you know, we owe everything we have to.
So like take the gift is a gift of love that you're here. Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be very helpful regarding all the suffering that people have. You know, there's a lot of suffering.
Without suffering, you can't grow.
But that suffering you don't grow, but the suffering hurts. You know, it's hard to love God when you're going through stuff. Yeah. Okay, what's your question? Name and question.
Shaya. And the question is if every human is experiencing life, but it's actually God experiencing it in human form.
What's the question?
Am I God experiencing life in a human form?
Excellent question. I have yet God experiencing life in a human form. But that's a very Kabbalistic perspective, but a very real perspective. And the fact is you're not aware at all of, you're not aware of God doing that through you. You're having your own free will experience. So it's like, but on this ultimate high Kabbalistic level, it's God, I don't know, somehow enjoying himself through you. It's good meditation stuff to realize that you're just God in the human form. It's quite interesting when you, meaning not that you can do anything for God, but when you do something for God, you know, like let's say you're going to pray because you're supposed to, and you'd like to do that for God, or you can do some other commandment, you know, you can do something, good deed for God. It's a funny thing, doing something for God. But he's an interesting God. If you could do something against him, that's a pretty interesting God. And so for God, it's only meaningful to choose to do something for God if you had an equal and opposite pull the other way. It's not interesting to do something for God unless you had an opposite inclination to go away from God, right? So.
God in itself created both sides.
Right. Oh, he created for sure. Both sides for sure he created. and yeah, but once you really realize that this is just God doing for God, so it makes it less interesting to do the wrong thing. Because it's just, my Rebbe gave a good analogy. You can judge whether you like the analogy. But the analogy is like this. That there was a kid there was an old lady in this neighborhood who the kid would go to her house and she would always have fresh baked cookies for him. And one day she got too old and he went to knock on the door and she says, "Listen, Sonny, I'm just too old to bake cookies. My hand can't knead the dough. I just can't do it." And she went home crying, and his mother said, "I got an idea." She said, "I'm going to make the dough. You jump over the fence, sneak the cookies into her fridge. She'll take the cookies. She'll open her fridge. She's going to see a cookie pan full of cookies. She's going to bake them, and you'll come to the door." So the kid, early that morning, jumped over the fence with the lady, put the tray of cookies into the fridge, ran out, went to school. And then on his way back, after he got home, he went straight to the house, and there's the baked cookies. And then it just kept going like that as the kids grew up older and older. So this kid's the one baking the cookies. Meaning they're baking the cookies and eating them, you know? And they're just giving this lady a chance to put them out. And that's our role. On a very high Kabbalistic level, our service of God is Him baking cookies, that while we have the sense that we're the ones providing the cookies to Hashem. You understand? אפשר לסגור את הדלת, בבקשה? אנחנו בקליטה. Okay, we got one more question. You're on.
What's up, Gavi?
Go ahead, Gavi.
I have a different question then before I'm switching it up, if that's okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, kind of going what you're saying. Our work is to like make those cookies. We have to work hard in this world, and we have to like learn and daven and do all these things. Ultimately, kind of just to get close to Hashem, to be close to Hashem. So I guess my question is, if it kind of, at the end of the day, we're doing all this hard work, and we're kind of just going in a circle, just to be close to Hashem, just to realize that's all from Hashem, to have a good relationship with Hashem. Like, why do we need all these in between work hard steps? Why can't I just relax, rely on Hashem, and like life's good, and have a close relationship with Him? I have to go through all this.
All this life stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And someone had a question online, was God bored? I'll answer both those questions with Hashem's help. So your question we actually dealt with yesterday here, and that was that this whole illusion, this doesn't even exist. No time's passing. You're not getting older right now. Your whole entire life from birth to death, no time will have passed. Because there's no such thing as time. Time's a creation. We're inside an illusion. This is a giant bubble we're in, and then time doesn't actually exist. But while you're in this illusion, your efforts that you put in, when you pop out of this illusory world and you go into the real world, this was yesterday's class, which is just vibration, actual devekas, like vibrational resonance there. When you get to that world, you're actually going to be in a much more powerful vibrational resonance when you get up there than you were before you came down here. And it's the work you're doing down here that does it. This is why they have a saying, Misha tarach be'erev Shabbat, hu yochal b'Shabbat. Someone who works before Shabbat, meaning cooking, will eat on Shabbat. You don't cook before Shabbat. You're not allowed to cook on Shabbat. So you're not gonna. What are you gonna eat on Shabbat? You're not gonna have any food. So this world is considered the weekdays, and the next world, meaning where the vibrational world that's causing this world, is where you eat, so to speak. And all the stuff you're doing in this world is just like gaining a greater vibrational resonance in that world when you get up there. So this other person asked, is God bored? Which is a great question. No one ever asks that question. You know, like, God had absolutely no need to create the world. He exists in undifferentiated oneness. Let him just be God, you know? Like, what does he need from anything? Now, what I'm about to say may sound a little heretical, but does God matter if all there is God? Does it matter? Not that he needs to matter, but I'm saying, does he matter? God doesn't need to matter. He is matter. Does God matter in a world where there's nothing but God? You hear the question? I believe the answer is no. It doesn't matter. Meaning there's God and it don't matter at all. There's absolutely no difference that it makes that there's a God without God having created something that at least looks separate to God, at which point God really matters. Like, oh my gosh, does God matter down here? You know, like, God totally matters.
So God wanted to matter?
No, he didn't want, we don't know what he wants. He doesn't have wants. No needs, no wants. Meaning normally, there's only two ways to find out what someone wants. You see a guy walking down the street, there's two ways to figure it out. Either follow him. You know, if he goes to the DMV, you know, he wants a driver's license. If he goes to the ice cream store, you know what he wants, you know. And the other way is you interview him. Well, none of us have ever gotten a chance to interview God, so we don't know what he wanted from that. All we have left is to follow him. Okay, so I follow him, and I get to this world. Boom. Whoa. What does he want? Okay, well, I've been given a conscience, and I have things that I realize I should do, and there's things I realize I shouldn't do. And obviously, our conscience is informed by Torah. But whatever society you're in, your conscience is informed by other things. And the Nazis were informed by what they thought was right, which was, you know, what the Torah calls evil. So it's quite arbitrary, unless Torah is true. If Torah is true, it's not arbitrary at all. And although Jordan Peterson says that you can know there's good without being true, because he's more of an atheist type. What? Huh? Yeah, because he said, well, why don't I just study what is for sure evil? And if I can figure out what's for sure evil, then I know good. I'll say it like him. Good is not that. I can't speak like Jordan Peterson. If I could do voiceovers for Kermit the Frog. So anyway, good is not that. So he said, I can definitely figure out that there's for sure evil. So good is not that. But even that's a little theoretical. Once you know Torah is real, we know what good is. And you could say that this whole world would be that whoever God is, he has a sick sense of humor if he weren't going to give us a Torah. Because to put everyone with a conscience that nags you and there's a voice that's against you, you know, like what kind of creature are we? Birds don't have a voice against them, okay? Dogs don't have a voice against them. Fish don't have a voice against them. Lions don't have a voice against them. We have a voice inside that says, you're an idiot for having just done that. And every person, there's no person without it. Me, you have a voice that says, don't do that, whatever that is. And so, And so, oh my gosh, I forgot what was our subject?
Just got bored.
Was God bored? Oh, how do we know why God created the world? Was he bored? So you follow him to this world, which is a totally legit way to figure out what someone wants. And you follow him to this world. And I'll tell you the truth, it's a scary thing to discover what he wants. Not scary, but just kind of philosophically scary. But what he wants is to be recognized. Period. How do you say the first Sheva Brachos? The whole world was made only for him being recognized by human beings who have the free will to yes recognize or not. As Jonathan Sachs Zatzal said, he said, the only free will you have in this world is whether to have God in your heart. It's the only free will you have, whether to have God in your heart. Very deep when you hear it and feel it. That you can choose. Everything else is like, this is God serving himself cookies here. And you got choice. Meaning you have an illusion of choice. That was yesterday's class. I'm not going back to that. So if you follow him to creation, you have human beings, billions of them, each one with conscience. And so God clearly wants us choosing. And what are we choosing? We're choosing between away from and toward God. Away from and toward God. That's what you're choosing. In other words, I'm going to recognize God and move toward, or I'm going to not recognize God and move away. And so I can know that God wanted to be recognized, but we have another hint, since we know Torah is true, is the Egyptian miracles, the 10 plagues. God clearly wanted Egypt to recognize. What was Egypt at the time? The whole world had sold itself into slavery during the 7 years of famine. Egypt was civilization. And then God just builds up the civilization with Joseph, and then makes the civilization completely civilization because it took over the world during a famine, because it was the only place that had stored food. And notice God specifically, what do you think Joseph only told the king? He only told Pharaoh to save food for 7 years while there was 7 years of plenty. He told everyone to. But what happened when the famine started? Everyone went in their storehouses, and what did they discover? That all the grain had rotted. Who do you think did that? God did that. Why? Because if all the grain rotted, that means there's only one place to get grain, in Pharaoh's storehouse. Which means first they gave their money, then they gave their stuff, then they gave their land, and then they gave their bodies. They sold civilization, all gathered around this one powerful structure called Pharaoh and his kingdom. And then God, through the 10 plagues, which is the 10 utterances of creation, because the whole world was created. You ever wondered the connection between the 10 utterances that God created the world and the 10 plagues? Is that the God who created the world to be recognized via the 10 utterances concentrated all power into Egypt, and then took it down with 10 utterances, 10 plagues, which God uttered into creation. And just took it down until the whole world was like Hashem's God. Hashem Hu Elokim. Now, do you think he changed the game now for us? You think it's new rules, new plot? What do you guys think? You think God changed the plot? Well, he definitely did not change the plot. Same plot, difference being that instead of it being a localized redemption, because in those days, if you were living in the Amazon jungle, you knew nothing about this. Plot totally changed now. And also our sages say that the whole Egyptian story, Jews in Egypt and the Exodus and the 10 plagues, all that whole story is going to repeat itself. But instead of just a localized one, there's going to be a planetary one. Yeah, the final one, the messianic one, will be where the whole planet and it gets its power. Do you know when my kids get to LAX and we're going down the conveyor thing or whatever you call it, escalator, there's a big sign that says, welcome to, I think it says, welcome to Los Angeles, maybe. And so my, you know what my kids say every time? They say, welcome to Los Angeles, where nothing matters. My wife and I looked at each other, we're like, what? You know, and that's kind of become the theme in our family for our trips to visit my parents who no longer have a house. And so, you know, I'm not here to say what the fires are for, but if there's any place where like God's name has not reached that edge over there, if there's a place God's name hasn't reached yet, that's LA. That's LA. I mean, I could take like the most observant guy in this room and pop him in LA and come back in 10 years and check you out, and you'd just be like, well, you went there fully observant. Like, what happened to you? You know, and by the way, anyone who's listening to this from LA who is observant, you guys are like giants, you know, you're giants. These people are giants. Either that or they're really boring personalities. No, there's some of them too, no offense, obviously. But there's plenty of these briefcase guys in the shuls over there. But you know, you gotta be giant. And actually the kids who were born and raised, the observant kids in the Haredi part of LA that were born and raised, Haredi, you ever met these kids? They're in all the yeshivas in New York, New Jersey, and Israel. They're considered some of the best kids. You know why? Because you don't have a world around you supporting you. You have to, at some point in your childhood, take real serious aim at God and Torah to get out of there alive. And anyway, so God just like took everybody out. Now, if I know LA, it's gonna make no difference. No, which is so sad. But like the plague of fire that hit Los Angeles and like literally wiped out a couple cities, you know, it's gonna have no impact. I even if people know to me, everyone's just poor me. What is suffering in a godless world? It's a poor me suffering. What is suffering in a God world? Oh, okay, I thought things were gonna be this way. I see it's gonna be that way. So like, how much can I suffer that? You know, how much do you suffer that? I mean, obviously, someone has a terrible head cold. Even if they're very observant, they're like, okay, God clearly wants me to have a terrible head cold. They have the terrible head cold, and they are suffering the terrible head cold. But suffering it without reason is the most painful. I'll give you an example. Guy points a gun to your head, God forbid, but I've had it happen. Guy points a gun to your head, and he tells you, turn this crank right on the side of a wall. Turn this crank, and you know it's doing something on the other side. And you're like, well, what's it doing over there, sir? And you're cranking it because you don't want to die. And you're like, and he won't tell you. And you're like, listen, if I'm grinding wheat for starving children, you can take away the gun, I'll keep grinding. You know, if I'm turning a barrel of a machine gun that's killing innocent, then, oh my gosh, I just said innocent civilians. I've been like hearing the too much left-wing media. And killing innocent people. So, so then I'll keep doing it without the gun. But if it's doing nothing, if on the other side of this wall is just a little post just spinning, maybe just kill me. Because doing nothing, having no reason, having no purpose, having no point to this world is the biggest suffering. That's the biggest suffering. And there's a lot of suffering going on in LA right now, man. People aren't seeing God's power right now. seeing the power of fire. Fire is so powerful. I feel like watching a little too much about fire lately. I don't know if you guys have been following it, but given that, first of all, first 20, 48 hours was just like, do my parents have a house? Do my parents? I'm just watching, you know. So, good morning to KJH. Anyway, people watching it are hoping it doesn't burn their homes, but on the other hand, they're watching. Have you ever noticed when you're at a campfire, you can't stop watching the fire? You can't stop. You can't stop watching. Even candles can do it too if you choose to watch the candle. Hanukkah, maybe you did it, but bonfire, forget about it. So that's just all the more so with a forest fire. That's now, and so you don't want anyone to lose their homes, but there's a part of you, tell me if you got this, there's a part of you that's like, maybe the winds are gonna kick up and we're gonna see some real action here. Do you get what I'm talking about? Like, it's a tempest of an energy, it's a spirit. It's the and it's the most powerful spirit of all. It's what's getting us when we fly places, it gets us to the moon. It's all fire. It's all fire. It heats our homes. It heats our food. It's keeping us alive. The sun is fire. So it's like, this is the key element of the creation that God put in this world. And that's a plague, man, because God put that there. God put the spirit of fire in this world. And it can rage. It's got fury. And it seems to have no mercy. I'll just give it something flammable, and it's like, we're on. Let's go.
Do the fires come out of nowhere?
They don't know how this, it's right? Just some. Anyway, I'm going to cut out a little bit with reception, so maybe the message is up to you to figure out. Blessings to everybody. Click the likes and all the other stuff you're supposed to click. All the best. Those clicks.